When Valorant was released, I had been stuck in the same rank of Diamond for 2 years. The feeling of hopelessness clouded my brain during this period. However, once I implemented these 5 habits into my daily routine, I improved rapidly and reached my dream rank of Immortal in a single act. In this video, we'll explain this step-by-step process, which can help anyone reach Immortal as quickly as possible. Warming up before your ranked games is the first and arguably most crucial habit. Your warm-up should be 15 to 40 minutes, so that way it's long enough to ready your aim and movement effectively, but not long enough to tire you out. But the biggest pitfall that almost everyone falls for is copying a perfect Radiant level warm-up routine from their favorite video, but then stopping it after a couple of days. The habit of warming up doesn't stick because they see it as just an obstacle that gets in the way of playing ranked games. So to avoid this problem, you should create your warm-up routine comprising of these different training modules that we'll outline, so that way it's an actively fun process you want to do. These modules fall into mouse control, movement, and hybrid. Mouse control and movement are catered to, focusing solely on those mechanics, whereas hybrid works on both at a less efficient rate than the other two. A general rule of thumb is that hybrid modules are 50% mouse control and 50% movement. For example, 10 minutes of mouse control and 10 minutes of movement equals 20 minutes of hybrid. Your warm-up needs to consist of both mouse control and movement. The mouse control modules are aim trainers and the range. Aim trainers are great at isolating the skills needed for mouse control. You can work on flicking, tracking, micro-adjusting, and target switching without dealing with enemies or other mechanics such as movement. The con is that technically you aren't practicing your mouse control within Valorant's game engine, so there could be slight differences between the two. However, this is the most efficient way to warm up your mouse control. The range provides a similar environment to aim trainers. The benefit is that you're aiming in Valorant rather than a third-party program, but you lose the customization of aim trainer scenarios, which are specialized to warming up those sub-skills. You must be more creative with the range to get the same efficiency as an aim trainer. Find some practice drills that can be done within the range that are similar to the aim trainer scenarios. An honorable mention is the bullseye section of the range. This tool should be specifically for practicing your burst and spray control. This isn't completely necessary, as you don't need to warm up your sprays every session. But it can be helpful if you have taken a break from Valorant or if you notice your sprays are considerably weak. The movement modules are the parkour course and custom lobby drills. The range's parkour course is a race from point A to point B that tests your ability to maneuver around using different movement mechanics. The main attractions of the course are that it's pretty fun, and your progress can be easily tracked by tracking your times. The disadvantage is that some of the movements you make during the course don't directly translate to in-game situations. But something that does is custom lobby drills. Load a custom lobby of your favorite Valorant maps and practice some of the typical movements you would make during a match. You may feel lost at what exact movements you should practice, so here's a quick list of some examples. The hybrid modules are Deathmatch and Team Deathmatch. Deathmatch is possibly the most efficient module for warming up, because it works on your mouse control and movement in a somewhat accurate representation of the fights you'll take in matches. However, not all duels are perfect because many fights will be finished before you can look at the opponent. For many, this is a giant pain point because not everyone feels that it's fun or productive to get shot in the back repeatedly in a short amount of time. Luckily, Team Deathmatch circumvents this issue by setting up the duels to be fair by having the map laid out where enemies face each other. The main downside of Team Deathmatch is that you'll likely get into fewer fights overall, and abilities can affect the duels. A hybrid module should be part of your warm-up routine, but should be paired with the other modules if possible. The second habit is to practice your mechanics outside of your warm-up. Practice is where the bulk of your actual mechanical improvement comes from. Especially for players gold and below, you can skyrocket through the ranks strictly from practice alone. Ideally, this is done separately from your gaming session or afterward. The minimum time should be 20 minutes, but the maximum can be for as long as an hour, depending on how much effort and time you want to put in. The practice modules are aim trainers, the range, muted deathmatch, and team deathmatch. When used for practice, aim trainers are much more intensive and exhausting. Depending on your routine, it can work on your general mouse control or hyper-specialize to a sub-skill you want to improve. For most of you, any general Valorant playlist from a reputable source should get the job done. Ensure it's a practice playlist rather than a warm-up one before using it. We recommend the Voltaic Valorant Fundamentals playlist if you're using aim labs. When using aim trainers, use the scores to gauge your level of improvement. Be sure not to fall into the trap of only looking at your best scores, but also your average scores. The range can be an effective practice tool. But as stated earlier, you must find creative ways to work on your weaknesses. The range lacks the same level of dynamic practice that the other modules have. If using the range, spend some time searching for helpful practice drills. Muted Deathmatch and Team Deathmatch are streamlined methods of practicing your mechanics. As we mentioned earlier, the fights you take in Deathmatch and Team Deathmatch cover almost all the mechanics you need for the fights you'll take during your matches. But to make our practice more intense, we mute the game's audio. This tweak to your deathmatches means you must rely strictly on your mechanics to find kills. When playing with audio on, it's easy to depend on footsteps and sound cues to make the duels much easier. When we practice, we want to create a more challenging environment to push our mechanics past their current limits. The third habit is limiting the number of ranked games you play daily. In all avenues of life, a tried and true piece of advice is quality over quantity. Humans have a finite amount of energy. So by limiting the number of ranked games you play each day, you're ensuring that each has enough focus to perform consistently. The limit you set for yourself depends on energy levels and how much free time you have available. We recommend 3 to 4 matches if possible. Nevertheless, if you don't have enough time to dedicate to other habits mentioned in this video, you should play 1 or 2 less ranked matches to work on them sufficiently. Ranking up comes from your actions, contributing to your team's win, not just letting the team win the game for you. For duelists and initiators, place yourself where most of the action is happening or create the action yourself. For controllers and sentinels, look to create plans on how you want to play the round with your team. The fourth habit is reviewing and reflecting on your games. You can do this by dedicating some time to thinking about how your previous ranked matches went or watching a recording. We recommend the latter since it's much easier to reference material you can physically see rather than working off of memory alone. We advocate spending at least 10 minutes on your reflection sessions. An excellent method to efficiently analyze your gameplay is to focus on critical moments and think about how you could have played them differently. These moments include every death, every kill, every time you use an ability, every post-plant and retake, and every pre-round. You can look for other instances, but these are some easy ones. You'll be surprised how easy it is to find simple solutions to your mistakes whenever you take a step back to look at the game from a different perspective. The fifth habit is research and development. Big companies like Apple and Google hypervalue R&D because they understand they must constantly absorb new information to improve. Your Valorant gameplay is the same thing. You need a consistent flow of knowledge so that you aren't forced to learn the game without having a starting point to reference. It's much easier to learn a skill by leveraging the shared knowledge that experts have accumulated. This can be achieved passively or actively, depending on how you approach it. Passively watching YouTube guides like ours at SkillCapped can help, but it will require much more time for the guidance to stick. Any distractions from the content will reduce the effectiveness of your learning. Compare this to active intake, observing content with complete focus, and taking notes. This method requires more effort but produces results in a much shorter time. Both approaches are acceptable, but realize that the time commitment to these two methods will differ. The R&D modules are YouTube guides, coaching, esports matches, and pro-ranked matches. YouTube guides are the most simplified method of gathering knowledge. Like lectures or classes, the content is explicitly curated to teach you a concept you may not have known before or may misunderstand. If you're struggling to find any content, you can always watch our hundreds of videos on this channel. For many, coaching is the most efficient way to develop your game. A coach can impart information you previously lacked while identifying your weaknesses. Because of the personalized experience that comes with coaching, it will be perfectly catered to whatever your needs may be. The main downside is that most coaching is paid services, which could dissuade many. Also, looking for the right coach for you can also be an expensive road because of this necessary cost. The truth is, the barrier for entry for coaching nowadays is so low that it's really difficult to find a coach worth their price. While many coaches will charge hundreds of dollars per session, we'll teach you everything there is to know for just a fraction of the cost over at SkillCapped. Our Aim God Masterclass is designed to teach you everything there is to know about getting Immortal level mechanics in just around an hour so that you can skip the part where you look like this and get to the part where you look like this. Along with your subscription, also feel free to come play along in the Discord community in-houses where we host 5v5 lobbies every Thursday. From here, you can see what it's like to play with the players better than yourself and compete against other players who are trying to improve just like you. What's more is that our whole site is backed by our ranked improvement guarantee. So if you don't climb, you don't pay. So if you're ready to start ranking up, use the link in the description below for a discount today. Finally, if you're looking to improve, you'll have a bit of homework to do. Esports matches expose you to what the best players consistently do to stay at the top. These can help you understand the meta and macro level decisions teams make during games. But generally, the esports environment and the ranked environment are two completely different ecosystems. So much of how Valorant is played in these matches will differ heavily from what you are used to in your ranked games. They are fun to watch, but be sure to contextualize their decisions based on the situations. Alternatively, you can watch pros playing ranked. Pro ranked footage is undoubtedly helpful in comprehending how players think. We're taking a pro player and watching them in the environment that they're striving to play in. Look for a player with the same agents or roles you play yourself. Any franchise player should suffice. Once you've selected one, look to copy as many aspects of their gameplay. In the beginning, you won't understand the thought process behind the actions you are mimicking. But by repeating and living through scenarios similar to the pro player, you'll retroactively comprehend the concepts they've thought about to get to those conclusions. Another exercise you can implement to reach a similar effect is pausing while watching and asking, "What do I do next?" After, resume the footage and see what the pro did. If there is a difference between what you chose and what the pro chose, inquire why that is the case. This process will help guide you to a different line of thinking when deciding what actions to take during a match.